Today we're talking with Leah Cooper, the creator of the 2016 play called In My Heart, the Adoption Play Project. We're talking to you today because both your play and Ricki's play address how adoption affects people emotionally. Ricki wrote her play because she believed that telling her story would help her find her inner and outer voice. What made you decide to write a play about adoption?
Well, frankly, it wasn't my idea. It was a part of my whole theater company, and it was so we have a particular approach to making plays, which is we start by picking a community of people that we think are interesting, and we ask them to share their stories with us, and then we make a play based on their stories. And then, of course, I found it profoundly transformative for me on a personal level in a way that I hadn't anticipated. But I think the reasons that the ensemble members really wanted to do it was they found the stories of adoption and reunion and all the hopes and dreams that go into adoption from every point of view, as well as some of the shadow sides of it all, the feelings of confusion and mystery. They found that just to be a really compelling story that probably anybody could relate to, because we all have moments in our lives when we feel like there's a lot about us we don't understand, and feelings we have that there isn't a space to express. And so there was a certain universality to the stories, I think.
Ricki's play appeals to adoptees, baby boomers, and people who have ever felt different. Your play sold out. Congratulations. What was your target audience?
Thank you. Well, for all the plays we do, our primary audience is the community itself that the play is about. We purposely pick communities whose stories we think are misunderstood or largely ignored. And we think it's a pretty powerful experience for them firsthand, just to see themselves reflected on stage, But secondarily, their friends and family. And then lastly, a general theater-going public who might not know anything about the inner workings of adoption. And we had amazing representation and turnout from all three of those groups. And it was, I think of those three groups, the people it was most profoundly transformative to were friends and family of people affected by adoption, who maybe didn't even realize how many people in their midst are affected by adoption, much less how profound that effect is. So watching those audiences experience it and maybe turn to the people sitting right next to them and go, now I know so much more about what makes you who you are, And then I think just a general theater going public, we had so many audience members say, wow, I had no idea this was so prevalent and so complicated. I think a lot of people have a real hallmark idea of adoption, a really simplistic after school special version, and the truth is actually much, much more interesting.
One of the issues that Ricki dealt with growing up was that she looked different than her immediate family. Why do you think it's important for a person to find people who look like them?
That is a really tricky thing to put into words. We put a lot of energy when we made our play into that very question, because we had a lot of adoptees who were transracial and transnational adoptees. Minnesota's home to over 15,000 Korean adoptees, so that's a very particular segment. But even Caucasian families with Caucasian adoptees, there's a biological difference, and an adoptee really feels it. And there are some theories out there about how, first of all, we're social animals. And when a child is placed for adoption, even with all of the best circumstances and the best of intentions, the child loses that connection. They lose looking into the face of somebody who biologically reflects them to help them see who they are. And frankly, it just plain leaves a scar. And then growing up, culturally speaking, there is this confusing disconnect that's happening on a very subconscious level when you're part of a family. Families tell you in all kinds of subtle, sometimes nonverbal ways, you are us, we are you. You are this experience, you are this culture. And when you look in the mirror and you look at them and they all look alike and you don't, there is just this disconnect. And it's not bad or wrong, it's just very disorienting. And it can be difficult to own your own skin and own your own body and have a sense of self when it would be like if you looked in the mirror and 9 times out of 10 you saw you saw something different than what you're physically experiencing. I think in some ways it's not so different from being somebody who is transgender or who is homosexual but born into a culture that says, no, that's not real. You know, you're getting a constant feedback loop that says you're something different than that you feel that you are. And it's difficult. And I just know growing up, I always experienced a strange kind of envy when I would watch other families and I'd see the way they moved alike and talked alike. And I didn't have that with my family. And it's hard not to internalize that something's wrong because you don't have that. And of course, it doesn't mean something's wrong, but because we're sort of wired for it, it's this constant feedback loop saying, you don't fit, this isn't quite right. And it's not an easy thing to carry around. And there's really nothing to be done about it. What can be tremendously helpful, particularly for transracial families, is for adoptive families to make sure that their child gets exposure to other people of their culture and their physical ethnicity, just so that they don't feel alone.
This play intersperses a lot of comedy with the drama. If someone hasn't experienced adoption, aside from the element of entertainment, what is the benefit to seeing a play like yours or like Ricki's?
Well, I mean, first of all, there are some hilarious and strange things that happen in adoption. It's just one of those things where we take something we think is completely natural and we have to sort of Band-Aid it going wrong. I mean, adoption always starts because something didn't quite go the way everybody expected, right? And then there's a million little moments where we try to make it seem like everything's fine, you know, and there's just humor in that, just like there is in any dysfunctional family. We all have dysfunctional families. So I think people can relate to the efforts to normalize that which isn't normalized, the efforts to create love where love got disrupted. You know, I think that is a powerful truth and a wonderful human thing, that we are these messy, flawed social animals that are always trying to put things back together that got broken apart, you know, and that's just beautiful and inspiring, whether you're adopted or not, you know. I mean, anybody who's lived in a mixed family, you know, a remarriage family, or a family that moved a lot, you know, or a family disrupted by the loss of somebody and grief, you know, a family disrupted by mental illness or health or an earthquake, you know, this general thing of us as humans where we refuse to let ourselves be broken and we are always putting it back together is, it's just beautiful and sweet. So I think it can be just really moving for anybody to see how adoptive families try to navigate their way through those challenges. And then also, as you said, adoptees, and as we talked about with looking a bit different than the family you're in, adoptees do always feel like outsiders on some level. I think all of us have a kind of, like an alien born from another planet, dropped down amongst you all. But I don't think that's unique to adoptees. We all have our moments. At the very least, we all have them in adolescence, if not throughout our life, when we think, nobody feels the way I feel. Nobody could possibly understand. I'm the weirdo in the room. You know, for anybody who's felt that, to listen to how an adoptee walks and carries that is, I think it's just validating, you know, for all of us. And the way we fight to overcome that, and the way people who love us fight to make us feel validated, no matter how different we feel. It's all just beautiful and inspiring.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you so much, Leah, for sharing these powerful insights.
You're welcome.